Okay. Can everybody see my screen okay? Hear me all right? All right. I see Raj nodding, so I think I should be good to go. Thanks again for the invitation to speak about kind of my experiences since graduating from Penn State. As you said, Natalie, I graduated from Penn State in 2014, and now I'm kind of in the sphere of public education. But since getting my degree, I've done a few different things. I've worked with two organizations actually since graduating from Penn State, and I'll tell you a little bit about my history, my background, who I am as an individual, and then y'all can ask some questions this afternoon, I think. All right. So I grew up in a small town in southern Colorado. It was about 8,000 people, and there was a small, at that point, it was a college. And it became a university in the last maybe 10, 15 years. But when I went there, it was actually a college. So it's called Adams State College, little university right there in the San Luis Valley in Southern Colorado. And that's where I grew up. That was where I was born and raised. I was the first person in my family to go to college. Neither my mom or my dad did, or any of my extended relatives. And I really, growing up, I just loved animals. I wanted to be a zookeeper, actually, was my dream from a little kid. So that's the only thing I knew when I went into undergrad. I'm like, I like animals. So what can I do with animals? Well, I was like, well, I guess I'll get a biology degree. So I started there in 05, and that's a typo. I graduated in 2011. But I started there in 05, and I kind of honed in on this degree called organismal biology, which is basically a zoology degree. And I took all the, requisite courses, mammalogy, ornithology, comparative anatomy. But the one course that really stuck with me was my entomology course. And this is a photo here of my advisor in undergrad. His name was Brent Ibarando, who's since retired. But he was an entomologist by training. And he decided, after doing research for years, he came to this little teaching school in the San Luis Valley. But he had worked on diving beetles. He had done some work on bumblebees. And he really sparked a passion for insects with me. So him and I got to talk, and we became buddies. And when I was kind of in my, I think, sophomore, junior year, he was like, you should pursue graduate education in entomology. I didn't even know what that meant. I really, truly didn't. Like some of the folks earlier mentioned, I didn't even know what research was. We were a small institution that didn't do almost any research. We didn't offer any master's degrees in biology or PhDs in biology. There's no graduate school when I was there. So he kind of guided me through the steps of how to apply, how to reach out to professors, how to, at that point, I did do the GSA or GSE, graduate school examination. And I did a few different things, but he was really my kind of guiding light towards entomology, and he really supported me. And in 2011, when I graduated, I actually took a year off and I worked, trying to figure some stuff out. And then I started to apply to grad school. And in 2012, I was accepted to the Penn State program. I did a couple lab rotations, and I did one with Christina Grozinger, and she was kind enough to let me into her lab. There was a project brewing with Dr. Etia Amsalem, who is actually still at Penn State. And so I think Christina saw the opportunity for me to do a short master's project with Etia, who was coming on as a postdoc. And I didn't know anything, I knew that I liked bees, and I knew that I liked insects, and that's kind of where I was. So Christina, like I said, she was nice enough to, let me join her lab and learn everything like on the job, which was really helpful. And I'm super gracious for her patience and Etia's, of course, as well, because I was able to do a cool project. And like some of the current grad students mentioned a little bit earlier, for a master's degree, it was my experience that there was a project already kind of brewing, and there were some research ideas that I was able to take advantage of and do some work on. but it was this learning curve was pretty steep for me considering I had done zero research prior. The animal side, I've always been an animal person, so that was not too difficult for me, but it was more on the molecular side of things. And when that's where Etienne, Christina, and a bunch of the other lab members stepped in and supported me in how to figure these things out. So I had a ton of support in the lab, and that was the most important thing to me at that point, because I did have times of imposter syndrome where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I came from this little school and background that I didn't feel like had prepared me enough for what I was getting into, but the support of the lab and really helped me do a lot of cool work and learn a ton of stuff on the job. The other thing that I loved to do when I was at Penn State is I had a lot of opportunities to do outreach. So this is me in a bee costume doing a skit about pollination here. So these little wiffle balls represent pollen, and this is Claire Ritschoff and Bernardo Nino, who were in the lab at that point in time. And that was at a pollinator celebration at the Arboretum. And then here, I think in the picture on the bottom, I was participating in an outreach event at a park. I don't remember what the park was called, but it was at in-state college as well. And I just love to do this kind of stuff. I love to interface with the public. I like to talk to kids. I was a camp counselor during bug camp for kids is what we did. Some of the grad students participated in that when I was there. And it really sparked a passion that I still have, obviously, for education. So these weren't required by any means. I was an active part of the Grad Student Association, and we would hold a lot of these things. And the Great Insect Fair is another huge opportunity that we participated in to talk to the public about the importance of entomology and bugs. And, bugs are a kind of a cool time and a cool subject to talk to, kind of smaller kids about. There is this, and I'll talk to you guys a little bit about this, like during my subsequent career. There's a sweet spot for kids liking bugs, and that's like from like 4 to 11. And then sometimes either you go like you love bugs and just love bugs for your whole life, or you kind of think it's icky and gross and whatever. But there's this really nice sweet spot where you can do some really cool education and teach kids about the importance of insects in on the planet and all of the amazing ecological services they provide. And just, they're cool and they move in different ways and their body structure is interesting, and just all the other stuff you could talk about bugs because they're so diverse. And so these opportunities that I had during grad school really had me thinking about what my career path would be going forward. I know I didn't want to continue to pursue a PhD because research was not my primary interest, but I knew I wanted to do something like this. And I had some success in the lab. We published some papers, conferences. Here's a picture of my experimental setup. And in the year after I graduated with my master's, Christina was awesome enough again to let me stay on at the lab, and I was lab manager for a year. So I took care of all the hives that they have in the lab and did all like the chemical ordering and kind of, took care of the lab. And it was really, really another great opportunity to really hone my skills in honeybees, which I hadn't during my degree. I worked on bumblebees. So I learned all about honeybees in that time and kept all the hives. So after about a year had passed as lab manager, I saw this opportunity to go back to Colorado. And it was just, I was kind of, thinking about what I wanted to do in the future. My fiance at that point, my wife now, had moved with me out east to Penn State, and she was not finding a lot of success in her career. She's an educator as well, public school educator. And so we were kind of brainstorming how to come back. We have all of our families here in Colorado. So we were looking around, and a job posting kind of popped up, and it was for a person who had experience with bees to work at an organization called Butterfly Pavilion. I think this is my next slide. Yeah. So Butterfly Pavilion is a nonprofit. As Gary mentioned, there's jobs out there for nonprofits for entomology degree holders. It's a nonprofit invertebrate zoo. So it's a very unique organization. It's not affiliated with the local botanic gardens or the big zoo here in Denver, but it's a standalone, accredited by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums invertebrate zoo. And it's a very unique place. There's not a lot of them around the country, but they focus on all things invertebrate. So I applied to that job, and they wanted somebody with bee expertise, which just lined up kind of perfectly for what I did. And of course, I like the public outreach education side of things, and I liked taking care of animals. So it was kind of this triad of interest that really I honed in on. And so I was able to be a zookeeper, an educator, and take care of bees. They were launching their bee program at that point in time, or bee conservation efforts. It's a really cool place. There's just a few pictures here that I threw on, but they had like a giant flight house where we flew thousands of butterflies. We had walking sticks and tarantulas and, orthopterans and mantids and all this stuff. And we would have displays for the public to come in and take a look at the insects and learn a bunch of stuff about insects and invertebrates. We had an aquatic section as well, where we had sea stars and shrimp and crabs and lobsters and deep sea isopods and octopus every once in a while. So it was kind of a cool little attraction for folks to come through and learn a bunch of stuff. A bunch of kids came through on field trips. Subsequently, I was able to be promoted to director of animal collections, where I was a curator of the entire organization. And I did, in that role, I really took on some more research opportunities. But one thing I will say is we wanted to talk about what are some of the skills from grad school that I was able to apply to this job. I think communication is one of my main strengths that I learned from grad school, is able to sit down and have a conversation with people about insects or whatever else. It's just openly communicating, presenting, talking about yourself, talking about your career, talking about your research and interests. So communication was huge for me. And also relationship building is another piece of it that's just vital for any job you might have. We had amazing professors and grad students while I was there at Penn State, and some of those grad students are still my close friends today. I'll show you some of the research opportunities I had while working at Butterfly Pavilion. As I say, they were launching their bee initiative, so they sent me around the world, and I've been able to go to Mongolia twice, where we worked in the Gobi Desert on cataloging some of the invertebrate species that hadn't been. I've been to Tanzania to work on some work, and then Nepal as well. This work revolved around a few different things. We worked on a project for bee and elephant fences in Nepal and Africa, using beehives as a deterrent for elephant crop raiding, which was cool. So, but some of these research opportunities were more education and outreach opportunities. So I got to talk to kids in Nepal about bees and show them how to work in a beehive, and same with Africa. So as I was doing research, traveling around the world, curating animals in this, kind of nonprofit invertebrate zoo, I was always drawn to the education and outreach part of what I did. And so when I was kind of at the point where I felt like I was completed what I wanted to complete at Butterfly Pavilion, I started looking in the public education sphere. And I also had a lot of family considerations. This is my family. This is our son, Gus, and my wife, Halie, and our dog, Zugi. Zugi actually is the Mongolian word for bee. So we got him when I was in Mongolia. In any case, I was traveling a lot, and we had a little newborn kiddo, and I was really not wanting to travel too much. And that was one of the job obligations that was not very flexible at Butterfly Pavilion. So I started looking at my options. My wife has been a public educator, public school teacher for 10 years. And so I really kind of saw what her schedule looked like, the difficulties of the job, but some of the perks, including some holidays off and summers off and things like that. And just her and I having the schedule lined up together was important to me. So I decided to apply it to this place called the STEAD School. And I applied it to the STEAD School while I was still working at Butterfly Pavilion. Also, COVID changed a lot of things, readjusted our priorities for family and work-life balance. So in 2021, I applied at the STEAD School. They already had all of their science teachers ready. and hired, but they gave me the opportunity to come on in a different capacity. STEAD School is a brand new public charter school here in the suburbs of Denver. STEAD stands for Science, Technology, Environment, Agriculture, and Design. So it was a school that has a variety of things that they do differently compared to other public schools and charters for that matter. And I'll talk about that in a while, but it was a brand new construction. So you can see in the background, we had building one. It was a brand new school, a brand new construction. And our first class of ninth graders started in the fall of 2021. I was able to start my work there tending to the farm because there's a big agricultural focus. So getting our beehives established at the farm, chickens, teaching electives, teaching beekeeping and entomology courses at the school. Next semester, I was promoted to science teacher. And this year, I've been promoted to director of culture. So I still have teaching load where I teach a couple of electives, including AP biology, but I also do a lot of other things here. At the STEAD School, we practice project-based learning where the students actually get their hands on things and build things for their quarter project to present to the public. We have an agricultural focus and we have a very non-traditional model. What we do, so just a quick overview, we break down the barriers and between student and teacher. We call our teachers guides here because they're guiding the students, and that learning is really self-directed by most of the students. And we're guiding them in how to go about their learning. We have exhibition nights where the students show off their projects to the public. We have 4 different agricultural pathways that the students can kind of major in as they go through the STEAD School. We are public charter, so we're free to anybody in the entire Denver metro area. We get public funding and we are part of a public district. Smaller class sizes, so 20, 25 instead of the regular 35 that you see in a public school. We have accelerator weeks where we take 4 weeks out of the year and we do field trips and take kids to this is me taking kids to the Butterfly Pavilion. So kind of taking them over to my old job. And I did an entomology accelerator week where we did an insect collection and learned about insect biology. We do rubric and competency-based grading. There's no letter grades in our school. And we practice restorative justice. So I'm in charge of behavior here at the school. I support kids with special needs and on 504 plans. I lead our diversity, equity, and inclusion work here at the school. I coordinate all of testing, even though we do not much testing. And I teach and I support kiddos. I just talk to kids every day, make sure they're doing okay, make sure they're supported emotionally and otherwise here at our school. And it is really the most rewarding career I've ever had in my life. I feel so grateful to be at this organization and to be spending time with these amazing students who are, it's easy to get jaded in the world when we see how the world is sometimes, but man, the next generation is pretty amazing. So I've had a really positive opportunity in public education, even though it's a tough time in public education right now, but I feel very rewarded to be at the organization I'm at. I think with that, I am like 1 minute over time. Quick skills and tools from grad school: communication, passion for education, organization, empathy, and diversity and equity. And I'll just end it there. Thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate it. I think we can answer some questions in the panel this afternoon.